All right, let's get started. So everybody, thanks so much for coming to the San Francisco Ruby Meetup. My name is Irina. I've been running this for a bit more than 2 years now. So super, super, super excited to see familiar faces and new faces. Our goal at SF Ruby is to connect Ruby engineers, founders of Ruby companies, and authors of open source. Everybody who's ambitious, who is passionate, and who loves Ruby and wants to see our jobs, wants to still be using Ruby in our jobs, right? Wants to see Ruby succeeding. And how we do this? We help companies hire. We help startups find teams. We help engineers get new Ruby jobs, not Python and TypeScript jobs. And we also learn what's missing in the ecosystem. And by trying out new open source, by building new open source, we build out the ecosystem and what all the Ruby companies, startups, big companies need to succeed. So we're actually playing a huge role here. All of you, I'm just mostly just talking, but not lately, by the way. No, lately also building a bunch of stuff. By the way, one of this is this at sfruby.com. We now have this, by the way, fully automated newsletter prepared for us by Claude Code, but it looks for a bunch of news from Ruby startups and Ruby companies, also Ruby open source. It's announcing Ruby Kaigi that I'm very excited about, that I'm going to. And yeah, it also picked up the news about Intercom, our host tonight. So let's thank our host, Intercom. Yeah, they're great. And to basically, on this website, sfruby.com, you will find links to join our Slack, to sign up for our newsletter, to find recordings. We have recordings from the meetup, from the conference, photos, just a bunch of stuff. Take a look, and you can also, follow us on social media. That's about it. We have a very interesting night this time. Brian Scanlan wrote I would say, very viral Twitter thread about how they've built this kind of like Claude Code mastermind at Intercom, and this is kind of like in the focus of our meetup tonight. But we'll have 2 more talks also about Ruby and AI tonight, and we'll have more breaks. We'll have 2 breaks in between the talks for us to discuss what we've what we're going to be talking about. And as usual, after this, before the third talk, we'll have the open mic. And this is where each of you can come to the stage, take the floor for a couple minutes, and make any announcement, anything. It could be, I'm looking for a job, or I'm hiring, or it could be, folks, I just tried this interesting jam or a library, or I found this resource, or I found this blog post. It could be anything. I'm just trying to convince you to actively participate because it's cool. And people will, it'll be easier for people to connect with you if you do this. But obviously, during the breaks, please go ahead, connect to one another, to each other, and we are always looking for Ruby startups, Ruby companies, all of you to have you speak, to have companies host us, and to have startups come and talk about the new stuff, the new companies that they're building. So all of that is possible here. This is our mission. This is the mission of this community. And yeah, you'll find me in Slack, everywhere else. And let's now welcome our first speaker, Brian Scanlan from Intercom. Yeah, I'll do that. Now the magic happens. Okay, this doesn't work, but this is magnetic. I'm sorry, but this has to do.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Welcome to Intercom. It's pretty cool to be able to show up in SF and get a meetup organized and engage in the Rails community. So I'm based in Dublin, Ireland. And I'm over here just to do SF stuff. And yeah, it's like I try and help out in a bunch of we put on meetups, Ruby meetups, other stuff, and we try and participate in the Rails community. When we can, we're as part of we're members of the Rails Foundation, and we try and help out with their conferences and stuff like that as well. But yeah, so what I'm going to be talking about is it's kind of interesting. The work we've been doing to double the throughput of our engineering team in Intercom. So there will be some Rails references here, and you can kind of take it as granted that a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is basically implemented with our Rails application. So Intercom, our architecture is that we've got this beautiful Ruby on Rails monolith, a few million lines of code, hundreds of thousands of test cases. And this is what we've been building for the last 15 years. And it's what we've been building all our AI features on top of as well. A bit of Python as well, but let's not talk about that. So Intercom is a 15-year-old privately held Irish-American B2B SaaS startup that pivoted to be an AI company the weekend that ChatGPT came out. And so these days we've got about 1,400 people across Dublin, London, Berlin, SF, Chicago, and Sydney. R&D is led from Dublin, where I'm based, and engineering is largely entirely based almost entirely across Europe, though things like forward deployed engineers and stuff means that we're getting more and more engineering in SF. And so this graph here compares our revenue growth to the growth rate of publicly traded SaaS companies. And so the thing that's kind of being very depressed and going down, that is publicly traded SaaS companies. And the nice graph that kind of goes back up is Intercom's revenue growth at the moment. So, we're booking the downward trend that SaaS companies have been suffering from recently. And Intercom has become the poster child of companies redefining themselves in the age of AI. New York Times recently wrote an article about SaaS companies doing such and prominently featured Intercom. And being an AI company means a lot more than just slapping together some AI features on top of a pre-existing B2B SaaS setup. So we built or launched an AI agent for customer support, Finn, 8,000 customers, average resolution rates of well above in the high 60s, close to 70%. Revenue actually today went over 100 million ARR. It launched the day GPT-4 came out and was the first publicly launched product built on top of GPT-4. And we've been building AI features since 2018 or so. But obviously, the modern LLM models unlocked huge capabilities in terms of what you can get done to answer some customer support questions. And companies like Anthropic, Snowflake, Linear, LaunchDarkly, Glean, they all use Finn for customer support. So maybe there is something left in SaaS. And we recently announced that our models are serving 100% of Finn. Few caveats like English and text-based. So the models that we're training for the specific job of doing customer support are outperforming Sonnet and other frontier models. We're doing about 2 million resolutions a week at the moment, and we're happy to sell models to direct access to our models rather than have to buy the full Finn platform or whatever. But anyway, this talk is not about any of this stuff. So my job as an engineer in Intercom is I'm with our platform or infrastructure group, and we take care of all of Intercom's uptime, performance, security, costs, observability, and everything it takes to make our developers productive. Largely, that's been historically worrying about things like CI/CD and stuff, and we take it very, very seriously. We're obsessed with shipping. We have this cool honeycomb sticker, which was named after a blog post of ours, which is shipping is the heartbeat of your company. And the reason why we do this is not for clout or because we think it's cool, but shipping fast and iteratively is the best way to build high quality product that your customers love to use. And so developer productivity is something we've always invested a lot in, and therefore as a result I've been spending a lot of time just worrying about AI in our software development lifecycle and beyond. So at Intercom we've been very excited for a long time about AI, how it can change customer support, but also all the other work. And so we've been adopters of the tooling as it's become available, and just purchasing it, let people use it. So like we kind of went through almost like a classic thing of like enabling GitHub Copilot access, and then like Cursor started to get a lot of momentum, and we built some custom harnesses around Sonnet and things like that. We also played with tools like Augment and others, but like, if you kind of go back like a year or 18 months, we were dissatisfied with the results. There's definitely like some good signs and some things that were like some work that was being made better, and like tab complete was kind of nice, whatever. But we're pretty aware of like where the models are going and therefore the harnesses, and we had a strong conviction that like we're going to get, or like this is going to transform software development and the shipping of product. And we didn't want to wait around for other people to do this for us, or like for our competitors to get ahead of us. So 9 months ago, we set a simple goal. Let's double the throughput of engineering, of all of R&D, and we're going to measure this the most simplest way possible. We're going to measure pull request throughput. There's loads of reasons why you could argue that that's a bad measure, and once you announce that you're measuring something, it's like no longer a good measure or whatever. But the fact is that like when you apply AI to like how we work, and with the ability to just ship more software, and like at the power of thought or something, doubling the level of throughput of your team, it should just happen naturally if you're doing this right. And even 2x actually is like unambitious. I think like doubling productivity is like the first step. So we think that it's going to just keep on increasing over time. But you need to push, So I'm going to talk here in this talk about like how we think about productivity, how we've been measuring this, and then like a sneak peek into our internal data and skills, and kind of showing you exactly what we've been doing to build the capabilities that have allowed us to double throughput in our team. So yeah, like a lot of this stuff started changing a lot around the winter break this year. So this is like one of our principal engineers, and kind of like a lot of other people on Twitter at the time, they were realizing the sheer capabilities of like, I think it was like Opus 4 or 5 or something, and Claude Code, and like just like days before the winter break, had decided to like go all in on Claude Code. But this like inflection point has been like coincided with like a lot of the push that we've been doing here. But the thing is, like, change is hard, and to get people to change how they work, to adopt new ways of working, to change our tooling, to change our mindset on things, you need to give decisive and clear guidance from all levels of the company, from the highest levels. You need to repeat this message in every single forum constantly. Leadership is mostly just like picking the most important thing and saying it over and over and over. You need to follow through on updating job descriptions, praising people who are doing great work, like promoting people, spot bonuses, whatever. You need to walk the walk when it comes to actually rewarding the kind of work that you want to see done, as well as making sure that expectations are really well understood across the organization. And you need to staff this stuff properly. You don't just get away with a bunch of part-time or best effort here. If you want people to change, want people to adopt things, you need to put your best people on your enablement teams who are figuring out how to get this stuff out into your organization. So we did all these things. We also picked Claude Code as our platform. And so this wasn't like a judgment as to like, oh, Claude Code is the best tool, so let's choose that. We found that like being fragmented across multiple tools meant that it's very, very difficult to get the most out of them. And that like the actual model, the agent itself, the harness, it's actually less important than all of the stuff you bring into it. So all of the context, the local knowledge, all of the kind of environmental specific stuff, that is the stuff that unlocks wild levels of productivity and accuracy. And again, we saw this with Finn. We saw this from building it ourselves. Like all of the improvements that we got from resolution rates wasn't down to the models just getting better every few months or whatever. It was about all of the work around it to make sure like you're feeding the right information to the models to do the right work at the right time. So you want the compounding benefits of a well-designed platform. It doesn't matter which tool. You can pick any of them. Just pick one. And you're never. I think it's very difficult to achieve just really high quality, reliable work, and provably show that you can achieve these things. And doing this over multiple harnesses, multiple tools, I think it's extremely difficult. You just got to pick one and decide that is your core and move everyone to it. So this also helped us kind of get like momentum because everyone knew what to do, use Claude Code. And like we still have a few people using Cursor and stuff like that, but it's super important for us that we like to maximize and get Claude Code working like a senior engineer in our environment. To achieve this, you need to pick one tool. And so we strongly believe that all technical work is going to become agent first. We want that to happen as quickly as possible at Intercom. Like Greg Brockman in OpenAI, he gave a similar challenge to OpenAI to like do the same by March 31st. I haven't followed up with them. I don't know if they've achieved that. But like if the models and harnesses don't improve at all, we have the building blocks and we've got the momentum to basically take all of the work that any senior engineer does and break it down to individual tasks and put a skill to it, put tests around the skill. And so like we think we've got the momentum and the building blocks to be able to get Claude acting like this. So all the technical work that is done in the past, planning, troubleshooting, on-call, whatever, we think that like the vast majority of that can be moved into Claude and skills and agentic first. So in order to move people along, to bring them with us, and we have hundreds of engineers, and we want them to have their own ideas about things and to discover things, but you need some principles, some shared language, and articulate actual goals. So I wrote up some principles. This is kind of like a summary of some of them. But the main thing is like everyone understands that all work is becoming agent first, and you really have to like accept that and then question anytime you're doing work that's no agent involved, why isn't there an agent involved? Like what are the barriers? And then your job becomes removing those barriers. And so writing these kind of things, it's just like it brings like clarity to like what we're trying to achieve, the direction we're going in. This stuff isn't for fun. This isn't stuff just like to speed us up. It's like we are transforming how work is done to be agent first. And so you have to, again, hammer home the message, and it's useful to articulate this stuff in principles so that people can digest, understand, and then use these in their own day-to-day. Additionally, one thing we've seen at Intercom is like we want people to be working on evergreen work. So unblocking access through agents via MCPs or APIs, whatever, writing docs, Intercom-specific skills, encoding all of the internal knowledge that we know, it's in our heads, to be able to get stuff done on Intercom. That is the stuff that's evergreen, and it doesn't matter like if we move to Codex in a year or whatever. It doesn't matter what features that Claude Code, that Anthropic will ship. We want most of our work to be not spent like adding features or writing glue between the orchestrators or the harnesses. We want people to focus on the Intercom specific stuff. For this, what it means is people need to be focusing their time on building small, high quality, testable skills, unopinionated so that they can be adopted by many, and well maintained, and continually improve them, have a feedback loop, so that the skills themselves get updated as they get used, and that we're using telemetry data and stuff like that to like make sure that they are meeting that kind of quality bar that we want, because it's so easy to produce poor quality skills that look like they're doing the right thing, but if they're not nailing it, then we're not interested. And we want to discourage people from spending their time like writing multi-agent orchestrators or overly opinionated workflows, like stuff that just isn't durable and unlikely to be used, say, in a year's time or whatever. We want people thinking about the lifetime value of what they produce, and our efforts should be on the stuff that's distinctive to Intercom. We're also like, we consider ourselves to be leading AI and engineering, and we don't want to throw our lead away because we get stuck with a lot of custom build stuff, kind of stuck in the old ways. As soon as new features get put into Claude Code or whatever, we don't want to adopt them and remove whatever software or glue work that we had in place that were solving those problems. We also want to make sure that people are giving agents their problems, not their tasks. A lot of the time, people are still like kind of prompting their agents like, oh, run this skill to do this thing. And that's mostly fine, I still do it, but like really the way to get like the magic out of these things is you just describe the problem, whether that is like, hey, here's my spec and I want to implement it in the product, or like, here's this outage, or hey, I'm investigating this thing, let's kind of explore it together. And then the agents should be able to pick up the right skills to invoke. And when you see this happen, it's actually magical. Like I had a security incident a few weeks ago that I was paged into, and somebody had accidentally published a bunch of, turns out, like innocuous metadata about snowflake tables to a public GitHub repository. And we detected this, we opened a private incident, and I kind of just habitually opened up Claude, told it to take a look at the Slack channel. I then kind of went back to the Slack channel, started looking and chatting about it. But then 2 minutes later, Claude had fully analyzed the data leak, and with reference to our internal policies and approach to like dealing with data leaks and classifying the nature of it, it had spat out like, here's the next steps for you. And like, it turns out, yeah, it wasn't a big data leak. It was no notification needed, blah, blah, blah. But like, it would have taken me like 20 minutes to kind of go through, find the docs, find the policies, read through the documents that had been leaked, and kind of come to the same conclusion. And so this task that like took Claude 2 minutes would have taken me 20 or 30, would have been boring, kind of monotonous work. And I didn't even know that skill that it invoked existed. One of our engineers just built a skill that does this data leak analysis, and Claude just did the right thing. When this sort of stuff happens, you're like, oh wow, this is actually pretty decent, and it's a long way away from like just tab completing or auto completing stuff that you write in a text editor. Another useful thing that I've been talking about recently is like, you know, again, we've got hundreds of people we're trying to bring on a journey here, and we're all at different levels of maturity. And I find myself as well kind of going back and forth between some of these levels of maturity depending on the area that I'm working in. So Steve Yeagy recently published like a similar kind of maturity rating. I don't agree, or it's not like fully appropriate what he wrote in terms of what we want to see in Intercom. But like these kind of early steps are like what you'd expect people to see as they're kind of starting to get with agents, and then by step 4, they're just telling the agents what to do, prompting, kind of happy with the output and getting very comfortable. And then it kind of turns more into like enabling others and encoding like perfect workflows by agents to do the work that we do as engineers. And so, you know, ultimately we want people to use Claude Code for everything. We want people to automate their work, write skills that encodes these, write really good skills that you can provably show, verify with tests, evals, the works, and write skills that improve our skills and ultimately optimize environments so that whether it's software architecture or just general kind of systems architecture, or just like with guidance or whatever, that we're priming our setup for the agents because all work is moving in that direction. So here's where we're at. So we've actually doubled PR throughput in 9 months, faster than the 1-year deadline we gave ourselves. You can see this beautiful inflection point, again, kind of around December, January. You know, the tools got better, but also this was kind of around the same time that we had the full-time team working on this, where we decided to go all in on Claude Code. Like, we just brought a huge amount of clarity at these times, and since then we've just been on this rapid increase in the sheer volume of changes going through our systems. And you know, like with this increase in throughput, a few things happened. Like, first of all, our CI system melted down. That was then the bottleneck. And like by meltdown, I mean like it started becoming a little bit unreliable. We ship hundreds of times a day, so a bit more unreliable than we wanted. But also the cost of it was like increasing a lot. But like we fixed it. Like, we went in, we improved, did a lot of performance work, and now our CI system can take a lot more load. And now it's like change approvals is our main bottleneck. So we're working on that. And you got like a number up there, like 17.6% of our changes, like pull requests on our main Rails monolith. That's the number that is approved automatically by Claude Code. And you know, we're not reckless. We didn't just ask Claude Code to approve a bunch of changes. We worked with our best engineers. We did back testing against like old. Like, we've got vast amounts of pull requests that we can use as data to like produce a skill and guidance that will basically have a Claude Code skill that does the job as well as like our best engineers, and can approve changes that are clearly safe and do not need a human in the loop. So if it's behind feature flags, net new code, it's the code change is small. You know, it does actually do what it says. Like, we're happy to approve these things. And, you know, we've also ensured that we're fully SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA compliant and all that by working with our auditors, and by documenting and having audit trails for like all of these individual steps. And, you know, I actually think that when you have this like repeatable, high quality feedback loop with an agent carrying out these kind of reviews, it's actually been done at a way higher bar than humans do. Like, most code reviews by people, they're not very good, or it's like look good to me or whatever. But now we're doing repeatable, detailed code reviews and approvals based on very clear criteria, and those criteria are followed every single time. So kind of similar to the way that we think that support, moving support to agents is way more powerful because like you get fast answers, repeatable and reliable. We think we can stand over the work we've done to have automatic approvals done way better than humans could do. So these are our numbers. Looking to push like even further. We want like over 50% of all of our changes automatically approved so that we can continue to ship as fast as possible with full safety. These are like skill invocations. You can see like massive increase in the sheer volume of people using skills for absolutely everything. We instrument everything. We have like telemetry, using hooks in Claude Code to send data to Honeycomb. Just like basic kind of information, which skills were invoked, that kind of thing. And then also we copy session transcripts for every single session to S3 for like post event kind of data mining, looking to find out where gaps are, and kind of troubleshooting, because we're supporting hundreds of people using these things and things can go wrong, and so it's really handy to have the session transcripts available to us. One thing which is pretty amazing, and this wasn't like the goal of this, but this is our defects list, and I'm not particularly proud of that, like just ever growing defect list. Like obviously we're talking to customers and they're finding problems. Like we've got a pretty big surface area in our SaaS business, and we just kept on accumulating shitloads of defects. But now defects are easier to approach than ever before, and you can see that like the kind of critical defects, high defects, medium defects, they're all like plunging. Like some teams are treating this opportunity now as like, let's go for like inbox 0 equivalent, so like defect 0. And some teams are starting to achieve this, but we haven't even pushed on this. And yet we see defects just deflating because people can get through vast amounts of work so quickly now. And so we're seeing these like really nice benefits. Another example would be like we've been working with a Stanford research group who are interested in software quality and the changes that AI is bringing to it. And our experience, we just checked last week, is that the quality of the software that we're shipping is higher based on a number of metrics. And like I join every single outage, every single instance that we have, we are not seeing an increase in like outages and stuff like that. Getting into the actual stuff that you might want to see a bit more practically. So we have like hundreds of people contributing to like dozens, if not like hundreds of skills spread across like loads of different like Claude Code plugins. We have a set of core plugins that we distribute to everyone, make sure that we get all of the telemetry and information we want. And we've got a bunch of core, really high quality plugins that goes out to everybody that we make sure is like a really high bar on like evals and things like that. But then like we want to give people room and space to like try things out or have like team specific workflows or things that you just don't really want to expose to absolutely everybody. So we have like lots of these areas where people can contribute and kind of play around with things and share things with their teammates without them like being sucked in and killing the context window and absolutely everywhere and stuff. Some of the sort of fun skills and kind of areas, like I built a MCP API, well, built an API that gives Ruby on Rails console access to Claude Code. So, you know, one of the principles we have is anything that Claude Code, or anything you can do in your computer, Claude Code must be able to do, or the agent must be able to do. And so if I'm logging into the Rails console to do stuff, I've done this in the past, and I'd be kind of like proxying stuff back and forth in Claude Code. And I was like, this is stupid. Why can't Claude Code just like do stuff in the console? And you know, my first thought was like, okay, I'm gonna try and teach it how to SSH in or whatever. It's like, no, hold on, I can do a better job here. And so we were starting to build like MCP API endpoints for a bunch of internal tools that we have. And so I just put it in there. And the amazing thing about this was like I did a very, very soft launch. Didn't really tell people about it. And we have like, you know, plenty of checks and balances in place to make sure that you can't mutate models, you can't do a bunch of potentially dangerous stuff inside our console, even if you log into it manually. There's like a gem that 37 Signals have called Console 1984. We do kind of similar stuff. And so we just kind of copied all of these into the API version of this so that Claude Code, even if it decides to do something weird, it can't actually, you know, change data or anything like that. And we've got full audit logs in that. But the amazing thing was soft launched it, and I took a look at the metrics of who was using it. Turns out the top 5 users were all non-engineers. They were product managers, design managers, people in customer support, and they were just working with Claude Code. They would describe the problem and mostly taking data out of Snowflake and a few other places. But then Claude Code would decide at some stage, oh, I know how to get at this, but I need a Rails console. And then it would just go and execute the code and answer the question or work, do the work for the person. So they didn't even know that they were using any of this. But Claude Code was just able to take advantage of being able to spin up a virtual REPL, I guess, and just have code segments being executed in order to answer the questions or do the work that people were working with Claude to do it. So these kind of capabilities, you really just have to push through them, give Claude Code access to everything, and document it and have skills as guardrails to make sure that it gets stuff right first time. But pushing through and making sure that Claude Code can do everything you can just gives you really surprising results, and it democratizes access to this kind of stuff. Whereas in the past, maybe the product manager might have asked somebody to go into the Rails console or whatever. And so here's some example skills. So I'm just going to show off these markdown files, which isn't that exciting. But here's a base skill. We keep very, very minimalist. We just have a bunch of safety things, session setup, telemetry, some universal skills, super minimalist. And we also do things we use our IT systems to push down latest versions of the skills and everything down to people's computers, so that we're not relying on the auto update mechanisms inside Claude Code, because they can be a bit unreliable. And here's a skill that I worked on, and it fixes flaky tests. And so we've got in our large, gigantic test suite, there's just background radiation, just noise of tests that get blocked. We ship so often that any particular spec that fails, it's probably going to pass next time around. We'll randomize the number, or the seed will be randomized, and a different order will happen, and so therefore the test will pass. But they're still there. They're still kind of annoying us. They slightly slow you down day to day. And we have automation that identifies these things and will skip them. That's kind of unsatisfying. And so I just sat down with Claude Code, and I didn't write out all of the million steps that I think deeply consider how to build a skill on this. I just paired with Claude Code, gave it a goal, which is we're gonna fix a lot of these flaky tests. Also, huge amounts of examples in the background as well. And I just iterated and iterated and iterated. So built this feedback loop, and Claude kept on just writing. And so we saw this with Finn as well. Just when you're doing complex work or detailed work, you want very reliable outputs. You just need to break things down into extremely small steps, very, very specific, as if you're pairing with a graduate who's very, very smart but doesn't know a damn thing about your own environment. And so these are all very explicit steps. There's hard gates, and just trying to convince the agent to do all these small steps. But all of these were kind of learned mostly because I would tell it to fix a certain spec, and maybe it doesn't look at the error message, or maybe it tries something wrong, and it's no, come on, we need to correct this. So this didn't take long to build this feedback loop, and then in the end, you end up writing up these kind of quick lookup tables, and classifications, and these are shortcuts. When I join an outage call, the first thing that's gone through my head is not okay, I need to start from first principles and start troubleshooting. I'm actually, in most cases, thinking what does this remind me of? Is this a database outage? This smells like a database outage. So these shortcuts are highly effective for people. Turns out they're highly effective for skills as well. And in this skill, I tell it as well, if you come across a new type of flaky spec, update the skill. We need to continually learn and improve here. And so this thing now is fixing flaky specs way better than I could. Doing work that some of our best Rails engineers, if they were doing it, I'd be wow, that's amazing. But I knew what success looked like, and I knew roughly what the kind of shape of the work should be done. But with that kind of iteration, that feedback loop, you can get extraordinarily good outputs. And this is effectively what we're kind of betting on. And we've done the same for everything from Rails upgrades, troubleshooting outages, and of course writing code and writing migrations and doing all of the different tasks we do in large Rails apps. I think that's happening. So we have 1,000 Claude Code users. Sort of the most interesting story for us is actually the use of Claude Code outside of engineering. We've got loads of people in sales, support, marketing, and all just using Claude Code. We made access very easy. We made access to data very easy, and people are just using this all day now to do their jobs. We're moving all runbooks, all troubleshooting, all like instant response entirely to Claude Code. We're remote agents, work in progress at the moment. And yeah, we're like, the single person team product experiments is very interesting. What is the future of a team? Who knows? What is the future of engineering? We don't really know. We're having these kind of conversations at this point. And I've been also like building cool like CLIs for Intercom that anyone can kind of use. If you go to fin.ai/CLI, you can see that stuff. If you want interested in other material, my website is there, brian.scanlan.ie, and loads more information about our use of Claude Code, and as well as like all the research we've been doing in the AI side of things is on ideas.fit.ai. So that's the talk, and obviously I'm around for chats. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Can I ask the first question?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you walk us through your evals for the skills?
Sure. I can
How it works?
open them up.
Just very quickly, you know.
Yeah.
30 seconds. We'll be there. I'm kidding.
So let's see. I'll pick the flaky spec thing as well, just because it's like one of my favorites. So this is roughly what the evals frameworks look like. Obviously, we have a skill that builds these things. And so there's like some prerequisites. We don't run these on, say, every merge. These would be something I kind of periodically run because these can take some time. Like maybe at some stage we'll start doing this, but like this could be a lot more complete, but it's just making it's like kind of sanity checking that like it's doing the right essential things, and some like kind of examples or whatever. So it's mostly just detecting that like it's kind of the hard rules, that it's kind of following those. There's also checks though in the test scenarios that they're doing it in so many turns. You know, you want them to fail quickly or like get to the point. So yeah, I wouldn't. So we definitely have ones that are deeper, or like ones that really push for like maybe higher quality on these ones. This is mostly like making sure it's going on the right track. But yeah, it happens to be in Python, but like I don't really care. I've never actually touched this code by hand. And then like you got these individual test cases, which are all kind of Python based. And so yeah, it's like every so often I periodically run these. People contribute to them. We just make sure that the evals are working as needed. But like, I think the main process in generating and creating the skills was definitely the like iterating and pairing with Claude to build a skill. And like I had a big data set, was able to like prove it out many times. So it wasn't a case of like test-driven development, like, or eval-based development. Kind of added these on afterwards, after it was relatively stable, just to make sure we wouldn't have regressions and stuff like that. But we definitely have skills which have like broader or deeper evals. But like this is a kind of well understood, clear kind of goal thing or whatever. So, and yeah, we just kind of like I said, just run them manually. We might do periodic runs just to catch other regressions when models change or harnesses change or whatever. But yeah, but we insist for any of the core things, anything that's like pretty important, evals just need to be all over it. Just maintaining that quality bar is super important. It's not acceptable that we have things that we're trying to like individual functions that like we're trying to get people to move their work over to if they're not like completely reliable. And the same way as writing unit tests, you write your evals and stuff like that as well. But you prove it through use. You know, you have to just use the thing, stand over it, understand what good looks like. Like we've had cases in the past where people have automated some work, say like exceptions, and you know, Claude Code will always try and do something correct. In this case, we had an exception with a Discord integration, and the thing was blowing up on any time it couldn't parse a custom emoji that was in the Discord message. And the solution that Claude Code suggested was to drop the message, which will fix the shit out of the exception, but isn't really what you want to get done. So, you know, having that kind of judgment or taste, and kind of knowing what good looks like, that's the most critical part. And then like finding a feedback loop, and then like you stick in evals to make sure that like, okay, what's in place doesn't regress or whatever at a later point. There maybe other people might disagree, but like I think it's a reasonable way to go about it.
That's very cool.
Is any of this publicly available that we can look at?
No.
And where?
There's nothing stopping us from, like, there's nothing secret in here, but also I wouldn't use this anywhere else. A bunch of the stuff here is completely overfitting to Intercom setup. We make zero attempts to make this stuff generally usable. But I have heard that some people have had access to our stuff and will use it like, hey, dear Claude, use this as inspiration for like your own environment and stuff. So I don't know. We can talk afterwards. But like, and I think this is a good corpus, good repository of stuff. And there's some stuff in here that I really want to get out, like the basic telemetry hooks and stuff like that. Like, and again, you mightn't use Honeycomb, you mightn't use S3, but like the basic concepts and where they hook into Claude Code, I think it's pretty valuable stuff. So I do want to get some of it out, but like if I gave you this, it's like it just won't work because not everyone has the same kind of setup. But like certainly as like a reference, there's loads of stuff in here which is valuable. So we'll see.
Follow-up question there. So you said that you run them on CI from time to time, or is it like part of like the regular developer cycle?
Yeah, no, it's not part of the software development lifecycle for these. At the moment, we kind of run them periodically, but like, as in, if I'm bored, I'll run them. You know, it's like.
And the follow-up question is like, how do you manage versions for developers? Like, do they have to like to pull when they want to update the version?
No, so we push when we push like make a commit to this repo. I forget the name of the tool we use, but the magic software that runs on my Mac pulls it down. So we guarantee distribution of the latest version of all our plugins to everyone's laptops. And the reason why we did this was the automatic update mechanisms in Claude Code are just janky. And it's kind of like trying to manage hundreds of Python installs across hundreds of laptops. It's just no fun. And between like the brew install is a bit weird. Sometimes things won't auto update. Sometimes people just run sessions for like weeks. So we see all sorts of weird stuff out there, and just we kind of one of the brute force attempts for getting control of this was to just like aggressively push down the software directly onto people's laptops. In addition to like basic Claude Code configuration and stuff, that seems to work the best for us. So yeah, I mean, I'd love if the plugins and auto update mechanisms worked, but you know, they don't.
Hello.
Hello.
I have so many questions. But what I'd like to ask right now is, now that you have a lot more of your code not being written by humans, what larger scale changes have you noticed in your code base? Like, have you noticed that things are like more consistent or less consistent, or are there sort of islands? I'm just curious about what you've noticed about your code base.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did do in advance of this was like invested a lot more in guardrails. We already had like linting and stuff. So we had decent RubyConf setup and that. But over the last like months, year maybe, we've invested way more in it. So I think that's necessary because if you're speeding up the velocity, that you want to like spend the time to like invest in like basic stuff like linting and like we already had a pretty robust testing pyramid and you know, everything from many unit tests to pre-prod tests to everything, as well as like detection and automatic rollbacks and stuff like that. So no one bit of those is like the thing that I would say is like, oh, that unlocked our ability to move fast and ship more stuff, but it was all essential. And so we've kind of strengthened this stuff and invested a bit more in it, specifically more on the linting side. And then when it comes to like patterns and that, like about a year and a half ago, we did try and work on standardizing or simplifying, optimizing our code base for LLMs. It's kind of hard to measure as well. And we ended up just mostly writing guidance and just like, that's good enough. If you write some guidance, just tell us like, you know, at one stage I counted, we had like 10 HTTP client wrappers in our Rails monolith for whatever reason. And we're like, okay, we could standardize this all, or you could just tell Claude, just do it, just use this one thing. And so, yeah, and then we're also pleasantly surprised with that Stanford data about like quality of code, complexity of code, and they also track things like rework metrics and stuff like that. And those things have been going in the right direction. Now, I haven't dug in deeply enough to go like, oh, it's that piece of code or whatever. But it seems like the effort we've made in linting, in guidance, just has made things a bit more repeatable, and it seems like the code is coming out okay. It certainly can't be any worse than all of the, like, I don't know, meta programming we did like 12 years ago or whatever. But yeah, it's we're not running into like maybe some of the nightmare situations of like we're writing so much code we can't control it or understand it, or like we look at stuff going, what on earth is this? Like, you know, we see the odd weird thing, but no, there certainly hasn't been like a collapse or even like a we're still writing Ruby code that looks like idiomatic Rails code. It's not producing like a bunch of Java Enterprise-esque code or something like that. So, but I would like to, like, I do worry a bit about like software architecture or like higher level things, like the risk of things drifting so that they become incoherent over time. But yeah, we haven't thought of it that yet.
The higher level stuff is actually what I think is most interesting in this situation, more like less about the linting and more about like, you know, every code base, especially one that's been around for as long as yours, has multiple ways to solve the same problem in many different places in the code base. And often there are like projects where it's like, oh, if we see code that does it this way, we'll change it to do it that way. Like, and I'm wondering whether Claude Code can help with that sort of thing, or do you try to use it for that?
Yeah, we do. So I mentioned like self-updating skills, where we have at least one engineer at the moment who is working on self-updating code bases, and this is where kind of like we want to be able to take guidance or like architectural patterns, just throw it in somewhere, and then over time there'll be nightly jobs that run that kind of like backfill roll out these architecture changes or patterns into the existing code bases. So I think like the production of new software is pretty decent at the moment. I think like standardizing that through like these self-updating, standardizing rollouts, I think that'll help as well. But I still do worry a bit like just architectural drift or intention drift or something, where you end up with just incoherent software architecture. The old way of doing things where you would sit down and plan it out and like make sure you've got a solid core and stuff, I think it was a good forcing function for that. But yeah, we haven't seen any big fires yet, but it is something kind of worrying about.
Last question, and then we'll go on a break, and then we'll ask our questions off the record.
Cool.
Hi, what has been the human impact of this AI adoption on your engineering organization? Like, is your headcount approximately the same as when you started? Has that changed? And then another aspect of that would be, how has like engineer satisfaction evolved or gone the other direction? And then the last question there would, if you can handle all these, is what is the ability for people to take on projects like individually or in smaller teams, or are you still using the same team size to tackle similar projects?
Yeah, some big questions there. I think like engineering sentiment is quite positive. Now maybe I'm just in like a bit of a bubble or something, but like my own productivity has massively increased. I found that in the past, as a principal type, you know, you're kind of mostly just telling people or asking people to do things. Now you can just ask Claude. And so for a lot of people, this has been transformative, especially for like old timers like myself, who no longer have to convince a team to do stuff. They can just do stuff themselves. And there's a lot of people like me in Intercom where we've suddenly found that we can be way more productive. In terms of sentiment, I think it's generally been good. Like there's definitely a increase in intensity and kind of expectations that go along with this. But these are good things. These are like, we expect people to be more productive, but you know what? Like being more productive is fun. And by removing barriers, by making it easier to know what to do, to like really set people up to do like more work or like to have higher output. I think it's like a pretty fun and interesting time to be an engineer. Now, like people are adopting it in different ways, suits different work at different times. We have to acknowledge that and support and move people along. But generally speaking, there's a lot of excitement. But of course, like we're Intercom, we're an AI company, so you kind of have to. like we're still growing. We're hiring a lot. We're hiring more than we've ever hired before. I think last month was a record month. So we haven't seen the impact in terms of like growing or like slowing down or anything. Quite the opposite. But we are kind of thinking of like, yeah, like what is the future of a team? Like, do we need so many teams? Can we have smaller teams? Do we like the stuff that was owned by a team, could that just be owned by one person? These are all like open questions, and we're running experiments. Like we've built a whole product. Like one person built a whole product, spent 2 weeks doing it, and we think there's something there of where like the stuff that would have been previously like whole roadmaps for entire teams is now doable by like an experienced, high quality, 10-year principal engineer at Intercom. But like there's something in there, and we're going to keep trying and experimenting to see how far we can go with that.
Great. Thanks, Brian. My only wish was that we were not looking at Python for so long. But yeah, thank you all. Let's take a break, right? And folks, I know you have more questions. Just don't be shy. Come over here. And I'll see you in 20 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Nice seeing you, Jeremy, and everybody who just joined us. By the way, anybody who made it from the East Bay? Yeah, congrats, you're heroes. I think a bunch of people got stuck because the trains didn't go, and it's all the time happening here. No, Bart is like that. Yeah. Anyway, so great, but great seeing you. What did I tell you about the front row? The front row is where the smartest people sit. So this is the front row. We only have like one smartest person. What's your name? Brian. So who's gonna join Brian here? Jeremy. Jeremy Evans is joining Brian, the author of Polished Ruby. We did not need evidence, but still, you see, you can never have too much. So, folks, come over here, come closer. Steven, I can see you. Where's Dan? Dan Farina. Where's Dan? Anyway, I think. Oh, I see you. Why aren't you here? Come over. Oh. Okay, both of you. Yeah, it's gonna be cozier, when you're here closer. Right. So we're gonna have a talk from Konstantin. From Konstantin? Yep. This is going to be about deterministic DSLs, right? And probabilistic LLMs. Deterministic and probabilistic. It's difficult to pronounce for me for some reason. Yeah. So. Right, it's just from. Can you repeat after me? Deterministic, probabilistic, right? Deterministic. Oh, right. Yeah. You see, I'm not a native speaker. So, right. Okay. Konstantin will speak about this after his talk. We'll have another short break, and then after this we'll do open mic. Who's gonna do the open mic? Yes, right. Matt, you're doing the open mic. Yeah, you are. Okay, Matt, who else? It's like imagine it's like our version of Little, like the smallest lightning talk. Basically, you come here on stage and share about what brought you here. How about this? I just want people to talk. It feels nicer. Jake? Okay, Jake. Yeah, okay. So now everybody's scared of establishing icons. I'm sorry. All right, Konstantin, take it away.
Irina, the queen of awkward staring. Thank you. Thank you for introduction. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for resurrecting Ruby SF. I was still around when Ruby SF was just kind of a new thing, and nobody knew Ruby who came to these meetups, so that was kind of fun. Yeah, thank you. All right, so I'm told I have 20 minutes, so I'm gonna start my timer and try not to get over too much. But today I want to talk about something fun. Well, at least for me it was fun. One of the things that I think Ruby is really great at and is highly underutilized is DSL. I love DSLs, and I've written a bunch of gems before using DSLs, and now with, of course, help of AI, your imagination is your limit, really. So how did the story begin? So my wife just passed the third exam to be an enrolled agent. That's someone who can prepare taxes for people. And she started a business. And she's a very impatient person, and so am I. But she's worse. And at some point she tells me, you know, I'm spending half an hour all the time on the phone just asking the same damn questions. Every single time, same questions. Can you like put some form on my site so that people fill it out and like I know ahead of time who am I speaking with and what sort of complexity their tax situation is going to be? I'm like, a little form. How hard can it be? Famous last words. So what I wanted to do is to sort of put up some kind of a bubble where you would be asked some questions, qualify. Essentially, if you generalize it, it's qualifying leads, or maybe onboarding users, or maybe just collecting structured intake data about people. This is not, none of this is meant to be for secure stuff like SSNs or anything like that. But the other problem that she had is that depending on the complexity of the tax return, she charges different amount, right? It's like if you have 3 businesses, there's going to be a lot more work for her to file it. So that's going to cost more. So she wanted to also put together something that would automatically give an estimate. You know, based on your situation, well, this is probably going to be the minimum it's going to cost you, unless there's complications. So, all right. So if somebody is on W-2, maybe they really just need 8 questions and that's it. Someone who has a business, maybe that's 17 questions. So dynamic form, right? Dynamic questions. How do you do that? So I kind of looked around for what exists today and what I could already use to do that. And I looked in Python, looked in JavaScript, looked in Ruby, couldn't find anything exactly like that. But I found state machines, form wizards, workflow engines, rules engines, and survey gems. But none of them did branching, show different things based on the previous answers, or none of them were medium independent, meaning that you could render it on a different like a screen or whatever. And so nothing really combined in the scientific words, declarative DSL with a directed graph with AST rules. If this, then go to that step, plus typed answers and JSON serialization, and maybe LLM. So the core idea was to basically create this DSL that you could say, ask this question, expect this answer of this certain type. Your edges in the graph are essentially transitions if more than 2 dependents go there or whatever. And then the engine walks the graph, collects typed answers, and then everything serializes to JSON at any time. And so this is an example. I'm going to show you a lot of Ruby code today that does not look like Ruby. Well, maybe it does. But this is an example of the DSL. It defines a form. It says where it starts. And the first question is a filing status. Its type is a num. There's more than 2 options in real life, of course, but this is a presentation. So here we only have 2. It has a widget hint that has a target, desktop, mobile, or whatever. It also may have a price, and the price may have a way that it's applied to this particular enum. In here, it just says that single item is single to 100, married jointly 400. So this is a hash. And the edge here, it transitions to dependence, the next question. So that's a very compact way to put a lot of information in. There's a lot going on here. It took, because there's a lot going on here, there's quite a lot of plumbing behind the scenes that makes all of this work. So first of all, there's 11 data types supported, basic things like string, text, integer, whatever, currency, but more importantly and more commonly enums and multi-enums, multi-selects. This is what a transition rules look like. So that's basically AST-based, and you can nest them however you want, and you can create really crazy rules that go to different steps, but generally it would be pretty simple. There's another feature, well, that's the price, called accumulator. That's a running total. So in this example here, the top one once again uses hash to define pricing. The bottom one says per selection, basically also a hash. Actually, one is a single, the other one could be multiple. So that's the difference. And then there's a couple more ways that you can apply. Like, for example, if the data type is integer, you can say one of that or multiply it by a certain amount. So the cool thing is that whole form, DSL, at any time, it serializes into JSON. And because it serializes into JSON, it can be interpreted by front-end JavaScript just the same way that it can be interpreted by Ruby. So I open sourced essentially 4 gems. Sorry, I can't count. Originally I called it Flow Engine, but I don't know, that sounded too much like 2010. So InquireX it became. It means inquire X, I guess. So the core module defines DSL rules. It's the engine. It's what keeps the state. It's what keeps you progressing. And the extensions are InquireX LLM. This one adds 4 additional words to the DSL. We'll talk about them in a sec. There's InquireX TTY. Now, that is not something that changes DSL. That's actually a consumer of all of these gems that allows you to answer that form in a terminal. And I'll show you how that works in a second. And then there's InquireX JS, which is pretty awesome. It receives that JSON I just showed you and walks you through these questions the same way. And it can skip very similarly through questions that, if the DSL says so. And of course, there's going to be a Rails app that I'm hoping to build and make it Possibly paid product, maybe not, I don't know. It's a very niche thing to do, so it might be worth for someone to pay a little bit for that. Maybe not, it doesn't really matter. The point is that using the gems, anyone, all of you, you can put that on your site, basically, now. Now, there is currently a limitation. The current limitation is that the JavaScript front end is not currently integrated with LLM. And that is because, of course, in order to do that, you have to go to the server, because you can't keep keys, API keys on a JavaScript, right? So you have to hit server first and then get your answer. And right now, the JavaScript module is pure JavaScript. It pulls JSON, runs through the entire thing, and then posts the data back. So you cannot use LLM keywords such as clarify, describe, summarize yet on the web. That's the limitation that's going to be removed once all of these gems are integrated into a single Rails app. So this is kind of like going into the LLM. And so how would you use LLM in this case? Well, here's a form, 8 questions for somebody who is very, maybe, I don't know, very common scenario, I guess. They can certainly go through these questions one by one, or we can let them type some stuff up front and then send it to LLM and give it a structure and say, hey, if you find filing status, dependents, income types, business count in that text, please assign it to these steps in the flow. And does everyone know what the temperature is? More or less. Low temperature means stick really to the structure that I'm asking. Temperature of 1 means be very poetic and diverge. We don't really want that here. So what LLM returns from the text, there was a text right there. I'm married, filing jointly, I have 2 kids, I work at Google, blah, blah, blah. That's what LLM returns. And so that fills out 7 answers right off the bat. And so the only answer that's left in that form is the email of the person. And that's it. Because the engine automatically skips all the answers that are already provided. So the insight here is that DSL defines what data you need. It's deterministic, it's typed, and it's validated. LLM extracts what it can, probabilistically, from free text. And the engine asks only what's left from these questions. So I promised to explain what the LLM verbs are. Now, I will say this is a work in progress, so if any of you have a brilliant idea, please share with me. But so you can clarify structured data from free text. You can say basically extract that stuff. Describe, actually, I think those might be synonyms. Summarize actually generates like a text summary, so it goes back the other way around. And detour, that's something that maybe if you answered yes to a certain really weird question, we don't really want to have a prescribed set of questions ahead of time. We just want to let LLM handle it. And so detour kind of gives LLM what to get out of you, and hopes that it's basically going to ask the right questions and come back with the data. So it's a little bit of a free for all, I guess. And all requires schema declarations, which basically explain what we are looking for. Oh, and every LLM verb when it's used in a DSL it's automatically marked with required server true. And that comes through in JSON to the front end. And that's so that front end knows that this particular type of a question needs to go to the server, not directly answered. So I'm going to skip that. This is a really kind of, I think, lightweight integration. So you want it on your site. So hopefully I will launch qualified.add at some point. You come, you create an account, you add a site to it, give it a URL, and then you, well, maybe right now you'll write a DSL. Maybe I will help you. But down the road, there'll probably be some kind of graphical interface that creates the DSL. And then all you do to integrate it is you create that script, tell it where to get the JSON from. So the get to that URL should return a JSON that describes the data flow, the questions. And at the very end, the post to the same URL posts the answers, also in JSON form. And the library that is doing the kind of display and rendering is called lit. And it uses kind of a shadow DOM so it doesn't conflict with anything on a host site. Cool. So we have a time for a live demo. So this is going to be fun. Let's see if I'm connected to my phone or something. So, okay, right here. Let's see where we are. A moment. Oops. Okay. So here we go. That's what we needed. So here's a that's a TTY gem, and it has a bunch of subcommands. So if you have a flow file, by the way, let me show you flows. So in examples folder, there are a bunch of flows, and the last one is like really heavy duty. So I guess I'll show you the heavy duty one first. This is what it looks like. Basically has lots of questions, lots of options, and it goes for quite some time. But it doesn't have to be this complicated. It could be as simple as this, like application for a job, I don't know, maybe different skills, design, I don't know, years of experience, whatnot. So these are the different DSLs that I have here. And that TTY gem is basically a CLI that takes that file, and you can do things with it like run it, so that'll run interactively. You can validate it, that it's valid, doesn't have any errors. You can create a flowchart from it using Mermaid, and you can export it to JSON or YAML. So I'm going to show you running through maybe one of the examples, but maybe let's pick something like that. So this is using a TTY toolkit. Let me, it's supposed to fit into the screen, I guess. I don't know, big font. So this one starts, so TTY gem is integrated with LLM, and basically it says, hey, just describe your situation in your own words. So I'm just gonna say married with a kid, W2, wife has a business, investments, crypto, and that's it. It's not really it, but. And so what just happened? LLM extracted dependents 1, income types. But I didn't say which state I'm in, and I didn't say what filing status I'm. So I'm presented with these questions. So I'm married filing jointly, and the state I'm in is California. And this is my name. Basically, you can have a callback that upon completion will either email or just dump the answers onto the screen in this particular case. Also, if you do run-h, you could see that you can save the output into a file just right here. So that was the LLM kind of base demo that showed you that LLM can fill out some forms. And now I'll show you what the front-end integration looks like. So I'll make this bigger. It dawned on me that we're at Intercom, and this looks a little bit like Intercom, but only when I got here. So now this form right here is based on that long form that I exported into JSON, and so now it's going to ask me, am I a U.S. citizen? I don't want to get ICE in here, so I'm just going to answer that. Do I have a copy of my recent return? Yes, I do. Verify and join, and so on. So you could see how quickly this is going. And this is a very long form, deliberately, just to kind of to test the limits. Obviously, this is not the best way to do states, but this is product in progress, and so on. So I'm not even going to get to the end, or maybe I will. None. No. None. As soon as possible. An email address. Look at that. I made it to the end. Thanks. And all of those widgets, this is a widget that is actually part of the DSL, the checkbox and all of that. So, and there's a bunch of others, like alert and warning. So nowhere in this process did it go to LLM because, like I said, it needs server for that. So that's kind of the demo of the front end. So what are the next steps of this project? So the gems are kind of working. They're under active development, so more features are getting added, but you can play around with them. It's under Incorrect's GitHub username, and the website is under construction. So the use cases beyond tax is, there's a whole bunch of different use cases that you might want to do. And I kind of think that it's pretty cool that you can put together a pretty complex form that optimizes for individual situation pretty quickly. Big fan of test coverage. So all of the gems have tests. I try for more than 95%. Looks like I failed on incorrects, but yeah, that's kind of it. So gems are under GitHub incorrects, and I am Kickster. Thank you very much. Look at that, 23 minutes, perfect. How am I doing? Is there any questions? Anybody want to put it on their site?
Or in your CLI?
No, not the
which
CLI.
is more in fashion now, right? Everything should be CLI. Anyway,
That is true. Everything
yes.
isn't. It's because of Ratatouille.
Don't ask. Yeah, let's take one question and then go into the break.
Do you plan to build views into your engine?
It comes with one.
Rails views or JavaScript?
Oh, views into the engine. That is a great question. I haven't decided yet. I think that I'm gonna launch the site first. Sure. And see what the traction is, because if I open source the Rails engine, then that's kind of beyond the point. So if the site gets traction, probably not. If it doesn't, most definitely. But it will be developed as a Rails engine for that reason specifically. That's a good question. Anybody else?
Okay, let's go. Let's go take a break.
Awesome.
Yeah, and thank you, Konstantin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irina. And also, what I got here again. I thought, like, what a great group of people to hang out with. Thanks everybody for coming. Hey, so I always wanted to talk about voting and mailers and things. Has anybody ever voted? Has anybody ever voted? Has anybody got a political mailer? I just was going to tell you, like, I sometimes get involved in helping people do things related to that, and I use Ruby, man. So I'm going to just kind of quickly go through and show you how that works. So I live just south in San Mateo County, and San Mateo County used to be part of San Francisco County, but then in Prohibition there was a lot of like drinking and problems, and so they said, you know, we just need to like create a line and like get a sheriff down there to go clean up all this stuff. So we're on Hetch Hetchy, but we're our own county with a bunch of cities. San Francisco is a city and a county. So I am in San Mateo County. So if I want to get voter data, because let's say I say, you know what, I have a friend who wants to do something, I want to send a mailer, I have to go get some data from the county. Now, there's no API. What I do is I go in person, I have to bring a check, I write a check for $125, and I fill out an affidavit saying I am not going to go looking for money owed to me or lost relatives. There are certain things you're allowed to do with this data, and there's certain things that are forbidden, and you sign an affidavit, and then they send you a thing to download a data file, and that's how getting voter data works, and it's just a file full of PII, if people know what PII is, so you have to be careful. So I'm going to just show you, I'm going to show you this file. You know what I'm going to put on? I'm going to put on some glasses here, because I plugged in the screen and everything got really small. So I grab a file every so often, and it's really useful because it's the current file, but instead of like loading in my database, trying to figure out how it's changed, I just like go through the file, man. Like hey man, go to this file and just make sure that you are doing some cool stuff with the headers. And at some point I might dump out like some information if I want to look somebody up. And I'll show you if I look myself up, I took a little PI out there, but I basically say like, hey, I voted. If you see this history line, I voted 5 out of 5 elections in the primary, a general, a primary, a general, a primary. And so I'm what you call a super voter. But basically, this is how I would format a search. Like if you're searching for John Smith, it would just dump this out a bunch. I'm not going to do that because, again, the voter file is full of PII. Okay, so I was asked recently to help some folks who want to send out a mailer, and there's some races going on. And I think if I go into races.txt, and oops, I have to figure out how to type here, races.txt. Okay, so there's some races in San Mateo County. There are a couple supervisors running for election. There's some, we have in the United States, well, in California, we have assembly districts, and we also sometimes have supervisor districts, but they run every 6 years, I guess, and so every couple years you run for assembly. We have a Board of Equalization district that runs from the tip of California all the way down to like Orange County, but along the coast. And I guess what I'll say is this Board of Equalization is like, the entire county is just one district. So if we go figure out how votes work there, it would be that entire thing. But this is the and there's some bond measures, measure ABC. So people ask me, okay, so we need to figure out how many like people are in different districts. How do you like charge people to be on a mailer? Let's say you're with some political party. So what I did is I created this file, which is again going through this data And it's for like these folks. I mean, you can be whatever party you want to be. These folks happen to be Democrats who are saying, these are the folks we like. And I go through and I aggregate them by households by basically just saying, hey, grab these addresses and then calculate like whether this house is worthwhile to send a mailer to. And the way we figure that out is we later on say, if there are 2 people in that household that voted in 2 primaries, they get a mailer. If there's only 1 person that votes every single election, it just costs too much money. So for this group, that's why you may or may not get a mailer. If you live with a bunch of people that vote all the time, you're going to see mailers. If you don't, you won't. And so do I have a SV counts CSV here? So then what I go is I go through and I figure out like, well, let's go through all the precincts. And if anybody knows what a precinct is, it's just a little collection of folks that all live together. And it's like, these people all are in this assembly district and this school district. And anytime they say, oh, there's going to be this new thing, they cut the district in half. And now these people have 1 senator and these people have another senator. So sometimes there are districts with just like 2 people in them, but they just create more and more districts. So I go through, and if you looked at the code last time, I basically said the first thing is I care about which precinct it is. Then I figure out how many homes would we mail that have 2 folks that voted in both primaries, and then how many of those folks are like those super Democrats, how many actual people, and then how many just like other Democrats are there. So on this line, for example, we'll just pick one, 2000, 1005, that precinct. There are 41 homes. There are 83 people that you're reaching that voted in 2 primaries, and then 95 people who registered Democrat. Maybe they never vote. And you could say like, I want to reach everybody, even the people who registered and have never voted in their life. There's never enough money to mail those people, unfortunately. So, so then the next file that I might generate is one that looks like this. Races. Oops. I'm going to just say, I think I've got this open. We're going to say, do I have a tab here with this open? Okay. So then we get to this. I remember I showed you those races. This is now telling us that in this Board of Equalization, which is for the entire, all of San Mateo County, if you want to reach those folks, it's 18,000 homes or 40,000 voters or 46,000 voters who may or may not actually vote. And so in the end, that's kind of how you may or may not get a mailer. And I decided to use Ruby all along the way, processing these data files. And I'll show you like, at some point, I thought maybe I should like create some schema and load a database, but the files keep changing a little bit. So I just have the files and I can kind of go look at old files and new files. And so I just end up processing the files that come from the county. You can get a county file, you can grab it, download it, and you can immediately start processing it. And databases are cool, but it seems to work. Anyway, that's my talk on how you may or may not get a mailer using Ruby. Thanks.
Hey, I'll give this a try and see what happens. But I can just mention it verbally. I'll give it a 50-50 chance that this goes smoothly. Trust. Yeah. All right. I might have to, let's see, can I move this? Oh, okay. So I have to move everything over there one by one. Okay. Okay. Which means I only see it up here, but I think that's okay. I'll be okay. Okay, so I made a gem. It's called Ractorize. It takes a normal Ruby object and converts it into a Ractor, preserving its existing interface. And it was a fun thing to build. I don't know how practical it is or if it will survive the changes that Ractors will undergo in the future, because Ractors are still experimental. But yeah, so here I have a little bit of code for benchmarking this. I'm going to focus on this. A Ractor is a Ruby actor, I guess. But it's a thing that Ruby is in the process of adding that is supposed to unlock in C Ruby concurrency across multiple cores So yeah. So here I have a productizer class. It probably would have been better to have a accumulator that just sums things, but this is going to multiply stuff. So we're going to call this multiply method, which just multiplies integers. And down here, I'm going to create 3 of these productizers, and I'm going to run the demo first, just using the productizer class directly. Let's see if this works. Okay, so that ran, we get some numbers, and we'll compare the benchmark in a second here. So in order to Ractorize this, I have to go up here. This is only on one screen, so I have to this is the biggest screen I've ever programmed on. All right, so I'm gonna uncomment that, and then I'm gonna comment out this. So I'm just gonna run it now with only the this, and so I'm passing productizer to Ractorize, which is going to Ractorize that class. So now when I run it, we get different numbers. I don't know what to think of these numbers. You can see that the overall time is about a second faster. The time for just doing the multiplication seems way faster than I would expect, because I'm only using 4 total Ractors, 3 Ractors for doing the multiplication. So I should probably take some time to make sense of the benchmark numbers, but yeah, so down here we're just actually calling multiply. And if you've seen the way Ractors normally work, you kind of have to design your program around the fact that you're using Ractors as opposed to just sending messages to objects. So here you're just sending the multiply message to an object, and whether or not it's a Ractor is irrelevant to this piece of code. So yeah, figured I'd share that. Oh, and I made a QR code. This is the GEMS page, and there's a QR code for it. And yeah, if you're interested or that's curious or sounds fun, just let me know or whatever. All right, thank you.
Hello, hello. Howdy, folks. I'm Matt. I'm actually just only up here because Irina voluntold me. She is the leader of the evil Martians, so following her instructions makes me a good Earthling. So there's no need to abduct me. I actually wasn't familiar with open mics, but I believe it's actually the new name for OpenClaw. So if you didn't see that announcement, now you know. That's what's going on. Really glad that the East Bay folks made it over here to hear these awful jokes tonight. There were some train issues along the way. A lot of people got stuck. They obviously didn't know how much Rails experience they had on board, or that wouldn't have been a problem. Any golf fans in the audience? Anyone watch the Masters? Not a lot of athletes here. Go figure. But that's true. You see some interesting looking people on the golf course. Rory McIlroy won the Masters. He's from Northern Ireland, which is on the same landmass as the Republic of Ireland, which is where Intercom is headquartered. So really, Rory's victory is a victory for Ruby. And I would even go so far as to call it a photo fin-ish. Didn't like that one, huh? How about Konstantin's gem though? Interesting new ecosystem, Inquire X. I think it's a pretty good use case too. Like everyone files taxes, right? Making that easier is great. I'm really glad that he announced it 18 hours before taxes are due. I'm a bit of a procrastinator, so thank you for that. But hey, if you haven't filed yet, please make sure you do so Bart can pay their PG&E bill. That's all I got. Thank you.
Oh, wow. How do you follow that? All right, so I've been talking to a few people today. I'm Jake, by the way. My name's Jake. I've been talking to a few people today about my AI development process. And like getting some oohs and ahs and whatever. I don't think anything I'm doing is really all that special, but there's some stuff there that's kind of cool. And I wanted to also touch on a really neat like Rails specific tool that Irina's team released called TestProf. That's you guys, right? Yeah. So I've been using this tool lately. Who here uses like Cursor or an AI integration to your editor? Okay, cool. Who uses like coding agents through the terminal exclusively? Okay, well, exclusively. All right, and then who uses like a, I don't know, like a superplexer or some other kind of tool that lets you talk to multiple agents at one time working on parallel work streams? Okay, like 3 or 4 people. That's what I want to talk about. This is super cool. Okay, so everyone knows you can like do Claude Code on the terminal where you're having a conversation with an agent and they're working on your repo and they're making changes, right? There are tools out there now. Tmux is one of them, and you can go learn how to use that in multiple agents at the same time. But there's one I've been using called Conductor on Mac. It lets you create a Git work tree, which is a separate folder or directory on your system with your repo for every what they call a workspace. And you can also create setup scripts and stuff like that. And so there's a way to set up your setup script that it'll create a brand new database on your system just for that work tree to work in. And when you archive that workspace, it'll delete it all and clean it up so your system's clean and doesn't lose a bunch of resources and stuff like that. What this lets you do, though, is you can have one work tree working on problem A, one work tree working on problem B, one working on C, one working on D, all at the same time, running specs and all this stuff, and you just kind of like periodically boop, 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 boop. And so what that has unlocked for me is this ability to work on like, you ever been working on a feature, you're like, I'm feature, and then you get to the point where you're like, oh, like this code is just really gross. I wish I could refactor this. But then you have people on your team who are like, well, I don't want to review a refactor in the middle of a feature contribution. So then you have to like submit it as a separate repo, pull request, and that's kind of a big pain in the butt. With this, you can just say, hey, like Claude, go refactor this. Open up a new workspace, new work tree, have an agent working on refactoring while you're continuing to work on your main product that you want to actually change. Recently, I had the experience of seeing some tweet about somebody improving the test performance of their RSpec test suite by like so many hundreds of % or whatever by using this TestProf gem. So just on a whim, I like switched over to a tab in Conductor, opened up a new workspace, said, hey, go download TestProf and fix my test suite and like attack that problem and make it faster. And it was really pretty much that level of prompting. And then I went back to my work, and about 4 or 5 minutes later, I got a ping like, oh, that thing's ready to look at. It was probably more like 20 minutes, something like that, because it took a little while. There's a lot of different things that TestProf does to your code base to make your tests run faster. And in the end, after about the first 25 minutes, while I was working on something else, keep in mind, and then I came back, made a couple adjustments, had another 4 or 5 minute iteration. Like I had, let's just say, I ended up with a test performance go from like 45-second test suite down to about 9 or 10 seconds. Which, by the way, I'm working on a bunch of different AI agents working at the same time, and they're always like running the specs after every change they need to make. So going from 45 seconds to 10 seconds multiple times per day on my system, that's a huge time savings, and it speeds up how these agents work very, very much. So that was an amazing. Thank you for the gem, Irina, and your team. But also just like try to figure out a way to multiply your ability to work at the same time. This is the kind of thing I never would have like picked up and worked on if I had to completely switch my focus to just working on test performance. But the fact that I could have this tool called Conductor, there's a bunch of other ones like it, that let you create multiple workspaces and work with your agents at the same time, unlocks this ability and potential for you to like quickly start a one-off little improvement or refactor or some type of thing that'll make your code base better. So anyways, just wanted to share that.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm going to be reading something to you today. So a couple days ago, I had submitted a pull request, and I was having a talk about it with somebody. And it involved a discussion about that kind of veered off into a bad direction because we were talking about abstractions. And we were talking about really high-minded ideals about where this code should go. Should it be up here or should it be down in the models? And I can kind of tell it was going in a bad direction. And this triggered a memory I had from a long time ago. Something DHH said. And so I created a work in progress branch testing out this other proposal. And then we looked at the two pieces of code side by side, and then that unstuck it. And then we actually had a productive discussion after that. So afterwards, I was thinking to myself, I was trying to remember what this old piece of memory that I had from a long time ago that got me unstuck. And it was a letter called, it was something DHH wrote in 2012 to the Ruby Rogues Parley mailing list. So I'd like to read you an excerpt from this. So otherwise it's something that would get lost to time. Judging code on gut. I like to say that when reasonable people look at a piece of actual code, their differences tend to dissipate. It's much easier to maintain an illusion of disagreement until there's actual code in front of you. I know this from almost every single debate I've had in the Ruby world with people I've disagreed with. When we actually sit down in front of a piece of real code and try to improve it, we tend to converge on the same solution. This observation was the most obvious in the MERB to Rails 3 merger. When Yehuda and I and others actually sat down to talk about what we care about, we found that it was completely complementary. And when we then went to work on making it so, these furious debates lost a lot of their heat, but retained all the light. So yes, judging code on gut is mostly the concept of judging code by reading it, not by debating it in the abstract. You can talk to authors all day long who know everything there is to know about writing a novel, but still can't crank out a compelling story. At the end of the day, the only way you can tell the good from the bad in code or literature is by reading it. That doesn't mean that gut reactions to code aren't based on something more rigorous. I formed my gut reading the works previously described here: Smalltalk, best practices, enterprise app architecture, refactoring, and so forth. What did all those books have in common? Lots and lots of code. Lots and lots of before and after. They swayed my opinion on good design by show, don't tell.
Hello, I am Ziggy. I have come up here to tell you about a conference that is happening in Las Vegas in July. You might know of it. It's RubyConf. I hope people come. It sounds like it's going to be rather fun. I'm going to be contributing to that fun in some pretty specific ways that some of you may already know if you follow me on Mastodon. But I also wanted to say, because I believe that the moratorium is lifted, the embargo, whatever, that I'm giving a talk. And if it isn't, I'm sorry. Oops. But I believe it was April 10th it was to the embargo. Yeah, so the talk I'm giving is called Weird and Wacky Machines Running Ruby. Fun name. So the description I have for that is, I'll just read it verbatim because I spent a lot of time thinking about it. We could talk about it later. Maybe I can, briefly go over it, whatever. But the description is, we all have some notion of the platforms that Ruby currently supports. But considering Ruby is now over 30 years old, have you ever thought about all of the weird and wacky places that Ruby can or ever has run? From Japanese exclusive systems that you might not have ever heard of, to long forgotten systems that were once ubiquitous, I'll cover the history of the most interesting of these platforms, try to get Ruby running on them, and experimentally test the question, what operating systems support Ruby? Which, if you have thought about that question at all, it's kind of hard to answer, isn't it? I know we know Windows and Mac OS and Linux BSD, but other places as well. So I currently playing with this. I have some very frustrating cross-compiling tool chains set up on my computer, and currently dealing with AutoConf and it being terrible, but it was a mistake. We should never have used, I don't know. We should have got rid of it whenever we stopped having 15 unices. But anyway, and this is basically like to complement the talks that have been happening largely in Japan about MRBC. So like there are folks over there, let's see here, Yoku, well, I screwed his name up, sorry. Yuji Yoku, I believe. They have been working on basically making MRB and MRBC run on like the Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, the Dreamcast, like a few weird things that like, wow, that's pretty cool. But no, I'm actually talking about like the full version of Ruby, right? Like 30 years ago, we had Ruby. It ran on a 30-year-old computer. That's just a weird concept for me. So like it hits a whole lot of different things I'm very enthusiastic about. But I have some pretty crazy, I've already found some pretty crazy builds. I hope to get some pretty crazy results. It's only a 30-minute talk, but I'm going to hopefully bring something to show and tell and be able to dig around with, I don't know, at the somewhere, I don't know, maybe in the conference center, there'll be a place for me to plug one of these things in if I have it with me. But anyway, it would be rather fun to just have a computer out there that no one except for like 5 people have ever seen in their lives that has Ruby $recent version that shouldn't be running on it. But that's the talk. Come see it or don't, but come see it if you would like. It's going to be, you know, hopefully a nice palate cleanser compared to the rest of the content, since it, you know, it's in the weird and wacky category. But anyway, look forward to seeing you there if you're going. Otherwise, I'm sure it'll go online at some point. And thanks. Oh, also, I am on the job market if you are hiring, at least currently. That may change. But anyway, hit me up, LinkedIn, whatever. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. My name is Galileo from the East Bay. Barely made it here. Just out of curiosity, how many are kind of individual developers working alone? And how many are working in a team? I would assume it's the... Okay, great. So I apologize, single developers or individual developers. I will talk to teams, but this is totally applicable to you as well. If your team is using coding agents, but the work is still mostly siloed to individual developers, I'm going to talk about Superconductor. It turns agent work into a multiplayer team workflow. We have fast, so essentially what happened is we had a big unlock with Claude Code last year, and then we moved fast. We started working with parallel kind of Git trees. It really strained our laptops, and we knew that there's something behind, like we can move faster and we can do more. And so what we did is we kind of put on pause our product that we were working on, which is an AI assistant, Stellar, I'll show you. And we started working on Superconductor, which essentially is fast cloud sandboxes, each sandbox with its own dev environment and live app preview. So we'll show you your app with any changes that the agent has made. We have multiple agents running in parallel for each task. What we found is that agents are a hit or miss. It's kind of 50-50. And it's much more expensive to keep trying to put a run that's been derailed on the rail rather than just continue with a different or a fresh one. And so we literally, every task that we launch with multiple agents. We also enjoy all the agents, right? So I'll show you an example where we ran Claude Code, Codex, AMP, OpenCode. And then surprisingly, AMP was the one that did the best job. So I'll show you that. And then what we really, the flow that our team has gone into, I can say that it's pretty remarkable for me. The work is done from anywhere and pushed from anywhere, Slack, mobile. We have a dedicated iOS app. Thank you, Ibrahim, for that. Tons of our agents are now launched from Slack. And let me show you GitHub, Zoom. We have a bot in our meetings that every meeting, it just creates tickets, spins agents. And when we're done with the meeting, we have live implementations of the features. We also hooked up our email, so customer requests are just being done and are waiting for our customer support person to check and see if it's a good implementation. If it is, she submits a PR and it's a go. Okay. Cool. Give me a second. Okay, so what you're seeing here is superconductor. You can see on the right, I have all of the tickets that I'm working on, so all of the implementations, that's the sidebar. Every agent run is a multiplayer conversation, so you can jump on it, multiple team members, have a conversation, guide, continue the work with the agent, or give input. So you can see here that there's AMP, there's superconductor, there's Sergey, and then there's another team member chiming in. We offer, so on the right, you see a chat with the agent. You can also see the app preview, and you can pop it out, which I did here. So I'm going to show you in a second. And then there's the diff, which we have so many cool features. I'm not going to drown in that, but one just thing to talk about. We use agents for everything. So for each agent implementation, we also have an agent guiding us through the kind of code review. And so you can see here inline commenting done by a review agent on the code that was created by the agent. Ibrahim, anything I'm missing before I jump into an example? Okay, just whip me if I'm. So the app that I'm gonna work on is Stellar. Again, it's the AI assistant, and we wanted to add a voice input. So we went into superconductor. We gave a very quick, kind of low-brow description of what we wanted, and then we launched 3 Claudes, 1 open code codex, 4 Claudes, and 1 AMP. Each agent also gives us artifacts, so we can see, before we even go into the implementation to check what the agent did, we can see what it's done and see if I even want to go into that implementation. I'm going to go into the AMP one, and I popped out the example, and you can see that now I have this. Oh, give me a second. Not sure what's happened. Which is that? Oh, right. Cool. Where did it go? Yes. Reset permission. Okay. Cool. And now I'm going to test this. Hey, what's the biggest continent on Earth? Let's see if we got it. I think it may be, oh, there we go. So I can go ahead. So the feature works. I can go into the diff. The idea behind it is, so many cool things. But one, we launch multiple agents at all times. It's very easy. The agents tell us which agent to actually look at. It's sandbox, so none of this is on our computers, so it's not strained. We are working, I have this cool video of my colleague, Kevin, and all of this is on fire because he's running 25 different agents on 6 different tasks, and he can jump real quickly in between. I think I'm going to pause here and see if you have any questions, or I'll be here also after we're done, and you can ask any questions, or we'd love to have you try it out.
First a statement and then a question.
Yeah.
The statement is, the AI world is moving so quickly that I came up there and read an app called Conductor.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes later, you're up here talking about superconductor.
Yes, sir. To be fair, though, superconductor was there before conductor, and conductor is all locally, and superconductor is in the cloud. So that's where we believe the future is going.
The fact that this is in the cloud is super awesome. One of the things my team is trying to figure out right now is how to isolate our development environments. Because there's supply chain attacks, prompt injection attacks, all these different things that your AI agents can automatically do on your behalf if you're living dangerously like I always am. So having this cloud barrier is super amazing.
100%.
I'm going to be talking about
Yeah. We'd love to. No. We have our subscriptions for Claude Codes, GPT, everything. We do have also an API option, but I have not yet. To admit, I'm not a developer, but I do write a lot of codes. So all of our team, one of the cool things is that all of our non-developers are now releasing features all the time. I have never blown through the max plan. I have the 100. Ibrahim is our like kind of core infrastructure person, so he may have, but I don't think so. Yeah, it's like, it's solid. Yes, sir. 100%. Right. So we will keep telling you how much of the 5-hour window you've. Can I do this? Yeah. How much of the 5-hour and how much of the 7-day you've gone through. And we also, yeah. And if you use the API, we'll also show you the cost.
If you have an application pretty complex, how do you set up the environment quickly? Do you have like image support?
This is an Ibrahim question. I'm just gonna tout that this was a hard part, and we just have, we released recently an agentic environment setup, so we will do this for you, and the agent's gonna struggle and try to do the best. Ibrahim, do you have any wisdom here?
Yeah,
do you want to use the...
So like it basically supports Docker style images. Like our cloud provider, builds on top of Docker images essentially, and like basically we give you, you can provide some scripts to set up your environment, and like he was saying, we have an agentic setup assistant that can theoretically try to set it up, and we also have it. There's like a feedback loop too, so like the agent will try to build an image, and it'll try to like actually get something running. Like say you have a web app, it'll try to get the preview running. Like it'll try to get the web server running, like make a request to make sure that it actually works. And then if it doesn't work, then it'll say like here's, it'll say like, oh, okay, here's, I tried to install, here's the output, feed it back and try to fix the steps until it actually works. So we just released that like a week or two ago. So we're seeing how well it works, but I mean, it like usually like it gets pretty close in the first couple tries. Because like this was actually one of the pain points we had trying to onboard people, is like we would like get on a call with them and like spend a couple hours like trying to figure out their crazy setups. And so this makes it a lot better, because also like one of the things for us was that there are like other tools out there as well that do similar things, but like our setup is Dockerized. We actually use like, we started from like the Evil Martians Docker template thingy. So it's like, it makes it a little bit more complicated, because not every cloud provider supports, like a lot of these like sandbox providers don't necessarily always support Docker, but the one we're using does. And so, so it works pretty well. Obviously, the more complicated your setup is, it might like make your start times longer. So that's kind of, your mileage may vary.
Thank you for your time, and we'll be here to answer any questions, and we'd love for you to try it out. And to make it easy, if the agent can't do it, we'll do it for you, but the agent will probably do it. Thank you.
Folks, it's funny. It's a really good meetup. I'm only worried, are we going to be kicked out of here? Maybe not. But I promised something. I also promised something to a friend, and gotta do it. Can you see it? Let's see. Yeah. I'll make it like super quick, because we have another open mic and then our final talk from Chris, and let me do this. So my friend's name is Jack, and Jack is the co-founder of another Ruby on Rails company, like Superconductor, which is called WOP, and I just like Jack's photos like this. You see, I don't know. He's a very friendly guy. Yeah. Sorry. So Jack asked me. Jack's our customer at Evil Martians. So Jack asked me to tell you all that WOP is hiring, and WOP is hiring. Right now they're in their need of an ops engineer, and They are like one of the fastest growing Rails companies here. They apparently just raised $200 million. I don't know what those kids are going to use them for. But again, they're kind of nice young team. And so join WOP, and just Jack asked me to just kind of like, you can reach out to Jack at wop.com, and if you have a nice ops engineer, we're out of them at the Martians, which is true. So go help them out, and just join the team. Nice team, like you see. Positive vibes. So that's my lightning talk. Yep.
Hey everyone, so we'll keep this short. So for anyone that's following the news, you've probably heard the word tariffs flying about, maybe. It's all the import taxes for any, that's been the talk for a long time, and other really exciting headlines as well. So Customs and Border Protection, so CBP, is opening a new portal on April 20th, so that's in 6 days. And this will let customs brokers claim refunds on that, because it's not an automatic refund. And so these are the ones that the federal court recently ruled illegal. So that's why they're eligible for these refunds. This is like billions of dollars worth of refunds. But brokers have to actively claim these. So what I built was a Rails app to generate the filing, because customs brokers are just overwhelmed with this. So I'm just going to show you. Of course, the demo gods will see how that works. And I will keep it very, very short. Let's see. Allow. Maximize this first. Let's see if it'll. It's showing my screensaver, but not the actual. How do I do that? It's just.
So first you pray. You pray to gods of.
Oh, I see. So maybe change.
Change, yeah.
And then maybe the window. Probably that one. Yeah. Let's see if that'll do it.
Mirror. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. So this is the landing page, and I'll just quickly. I'll actually go back to the previous screen that shows the white space. Actually didn't take. It's just as I was fixing it right now. But this is what the customs broker will come in and enter what's called a CSV file. Obviously, we're all familiar with that, but this will filter for which entries are eligible for a refund, give them an estimate of what they'll be getting as a refund, and then they'll make a legal attestation that they've verified everything, and then generate the required documentation to then upload to that Kate portal that's being launched on Sunday. So that's what I'm building. We'll just leave it at that for now. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, folks, our final talk for tonight, which I'm really glad we finally got there. Yeah, we just had too many lightning talks. But yeah, Chris Davis, let's take it away.
Will do. Thank you, and I will be very brief. I'm working on a thing called Robot. And the big idea is semi-autonomous workflows, particularly for internal operations. So where hallucinations or things drifting or just unpredictable behavior is not something that you really want. Trying to build a framework around enabling folks who don't come from a software development background to be able to build reliable code that can stand up to these processes that are moving very quickly. And so very quickly here, I'm new to Ruby, but really enjoy its expressiveness and the meta programming that it enables. Konstantin is, I don't know if he's still here, but thinking about DSLs and that sort of thing. LLMs are very good at generating those in the way that I'm not. And so being able to create structure around what the code does creates a little bit of determinism, which from a process flow standpoint is great, because now I've got a workflow that's well-defined, that someone who is power user level and above can read. And now you've got code-driven flows where historically this might be a thing that is point and click. And so with AI and the changes that we've got coming, we're going to be able to go code first in a way that has happened in other ways. If I had a little more time, I'd regale you with stories of things that I've seen over nearly 2 decades. But suffice it to say that I've seen this pattern before, and I see Ruby in particular being very critical here in this place where this transformation is going to be happening. And so, you know, I'm sure many of you have seen this image before about computers not being able to be held accountable. And so if we're making decisions, we want to be able to make sure we're doing so in a way that is reliable. So at the end of the day, I won't read through this, obviously, but robot.pdt.dev is where you can kind of get the brief manifesto. But at the end of the day, Robot is a gem that extends Rails, because why recreate the wheel? There's good stuff there. And so I'm basically stealing great ideas from agentic frameworks like, if you've ever worked with or are familiar with Master AI, I like their kind of approach to things. And so taking some ideas from there, and LangChain, and obviously. But we've got these 4 primitives that are you install, and now you've got this out-of-the-box batteries included, so you don't have to recreate the wheel in terms of building out some of these foundational things for managing the tool calls and doing the instrumentation at the end of the day. And so we've got these components, but what really is the goal that I'm after is including this sort of purpose-built portal. And so through this, you've now got this UI interface that's built on top of those primitives, and still very early stages in terms of authoring how that's going to work. A lot of open questions. But the goal here is I can generate a bunch of code that can run these workflows, and then I can now have this stuff captured in a way that is standardized. And again, especially if I'm not coming from a background of building software, how am I able to track these event streams and have all these details? And so things like durable workflows, where this thing has been, this last workflow I ran actually while I was stuck on the train. And so broken internet connection, all this sort of stuff, but now I can come back into this and say, I've got a little toy example here, or app that I'm working with, where we're submitting paper trades through the Alpaca API. And so I have queued up an order for almost $31,000 worth of Visa shares, which there's a policy that's defined here that triggers a human review because it's $31,000 is greater than the value that we've set for that threshold. And so now we're saying, hey, this needs a human to come through here. And so I'm in the admin portal on the back end. So you could imagine an ops manager doing a workflow of refund approval kind of thing. Whatever those internal processes are that might have somebody that needs to come in, I can come in here, I can review, I can make a note and say, you know what, actually this is pretty good. I'm okay with that. I've just hit approve. And so now this is completed. And I can see, there's probably way too much stuff in here actually, but I can trace this from start to finish in terms of all the data that has flowed through here. But you just see this V order just popped in here. And so that now is released. I've got the trace and monitoring for that in case I wanted to come back and say, where did this originate? How did this come to be? And so this is where I'm trying to build this framework around. And just very briefly hopping into some code. Here's this very loosey-goosey policy. This is just a YAML file, right? Which is, if I requested any stock ticker that wasn't on this list, it would be automatically rejected. Here we see this threshold of 20K. Because the visa order was over that amount, it routed it to the approval pool. And so here's this thing where, as someone who doesn't necessarily need to write the code to do this, I can build a pretty robust suite of tools that can function within and across functions on an operational basis. And so that's the big idea. I just want to call it here. This is just a Ruby on Rails app. I've installed this gem, but here we've got, like I said, the kind of core primitives here. Here's an agent and some code where we're deterministically defining input and output data schemas and the way that's structured. I've got tools, and so each of these various things kind of wrap around that Alpaca API. And so I can define this in very bespoke ways. I can then define what a workflow looks like, right? And so I've got a tool call step, I've got a tool call step, an agent step, and so forth. And then at the end of the day, there's a operation which wraps these boundaries as kind of business features. And so I think the future will need some of these more structured tools for folks who are going to be spitting out code from their various token providers. And the more structure that we can provide for folks, the easier we can make that in terms of sustainable and reliable code that run processes that are important to day-to-day businesses. And so that's what I've been working on. Thank you. Sure, absolutely.
Yep. Did you actually make that $30,000 trade, or was that just a demo? The Visa trade, was that real or was that a demo?
So it's a paper account. So no real money was no money was moved in the making of this
That would
demo.
have been so cool.
So what I was gonna do with more time was actually I had a production deployment issue, but I was gonna let the crowd submit things and then we'd go through and approve or not approve based on the paper trading account. I've got this running in locally and hooked everything up so that it's demoable. But yeah, so you've seen the ubiquitous input text box as for this, and so I could buy or nothing's the account doesn't actually hold any position, so we can't sell anything. But this in itself, right, is just a Rails app that I then added the gem for the Rubot stuff on the back end to be able to get to the admin portal. And so, I've got a few different, I guess, not quite perfect metaphors and analogies for it, but if you could imagine the way WordPress functions in terms of, I've got my content in the front, I've got the customer-facing stuff from a product standpoint, I've got the admin UI. That kind of thing is what I'm hoping for. But long story short, no, there's no real money there.
Can you show us the GitHub link?
Oh, I should do that, yes. I guess you can't really do the thing here. Perhaps maybe we can share do a link through the Meetup group. But Bootstrapable is my sort of venture studio playground area, and Rubot is the where the code lives for this. And would love and appreciate any feedback from the pros on how this might be functional from a Ruby standpoint. I've been diving in. huge DHH fan and that whole thing for a very long time, especially as a bootstrap startup founder myself. But yeah, before LLMs, no code was just a lot easier to do until, so now I'm here in the Ruby world.
Nice. Guys, you have a chance to give it a second star. So do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was a cool presentation, and this was a great meetup. I thank you all for coming and participating very actively. Okay. Yeah, sure, whatever, like, doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, sorry, I was fixing my demo all the meeting. Okay. Yeah, sorry for Ubuntu. Displays, mirror, apply, keep. Okay. So what I want to present is this project. It's called claude-yolo. It runs parallel Claude Code Agents in TMUX with automated permission approvals. Like, even if your company restrict your cloud accounts, this project can click OK for you in terminal. But please don't use it in corporate environment. Because it's quite dangerous, and like use it dedicated bare metal server without internet access. And feature that I added recently is like work tree mode, where you can run parallel agent in work trees and resolve conflicts. Let's see how it works. Let's do like terminal. So we created first commit in our repo, and then we apply claude-yolo with work tree mode and with free agents that will try to step on each other's toes. And then somehow magically the conflicts will be resolved. So as we see, like several agents started working on the tasks, and there is another agent that controls the process of 3 other agents. There is a special pane in TMUX that clicks approve on some questions from Claude Code automatically if it detects. Okay, so second agent finished his work, third finished. But there was some merge conflicts. Like merge conflicts was found, and now resolve agent is going to. Where's the resolve? Here's this. It's resolving the conflicts between these 3 agents, doing like pairwise comparison between different work trees. And yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
So we started with conductor, then superconductor, now YOLO super duper Claude conductor, I guess, right? All right. That was it. That was SF Ruby in April. Join Slack, share your comments, ask questions, and I ask everybody who spoke today to join Slack and share your assets and links. and chat with people. So slides, if you have slides. Yeah, I'll also share the recordings. We'll share a bunch of stuff. So all of that. Yeah, have fun if you want to go for drinks. If anybody has any energy left, let me know. But yeah, see you next time.